on this week's episode of the Pass the Gravy podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Avatar Season 1 because it's on Netflix now and it's really popular. I'm pretty sure it's number 1.
It was
It's
number
not,
one. Now it's number two, I think, as of today. But it's been number one for a while.
yeah, because like the last time I remember it was number 1. And it's
hmm
kind of crazy that it is number 1, you know? Because, like, before, like, I've only heard, like, mentions of it before, because people are like, oh, yeah, it's really well written and everything, and that's pretty much it, you know? It's not like Harry Potter or Star Wars, where you hear just so much about it all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So, first off, because we're talking about Avatar. Now, Nathan, what element would you bend?
Mm, I don't know. Like, it's always between fire or water for me. I like the way it looks when those two elements are being used, but I'd probably go with water.
I think personally, I'd want to do air.
Yeah. That's.
Like, I want to be able to fly,
hmm
or to have like a sky bison or something.
Yeah, there's like all of the elements are really cool, and
hmm
no, I would want to be the avatar so I could use all four elements. That's what I would want.
I don't really know what I would do with the fire, like in my day-to-day life. Like, I don't really know what I would do,
It just
but.
looks cool.
hmm So, like, for me, watching season 1 was like kind of interesting because like I haven't watched it since I was in middle school.
Uh-huh.
So like it was kind of it was like I was watching it for the first time all over again. And so it was a little weird. Like I knew like some things were gonna happen, but it was just really different this time.
Yeah.
And my first impression is that it is like it's a lot slower paced than I remember, you know?
Yep.
But like it the whenever it's slow, it's only because it's trying to establish the world and the characters that live in it, you know? So
It
it
needs to be slow though, just because
mhm.
it is a new show and it's the first season, so.
But like with that, the show like sometimes the show feels like it has filler, but but like I'm okay with the filler because it does add to the world. Like they may be doing like they Aang, Katara, and Sokka may be doing something that's a little silly, but even still, the world is being built as you're watching it happen. Like they're exploring the Earth Kingdom, or like the Kiyoshi warriors, or just different things like that, you know. Or
That
you're learning more about Zuko and the Fire Nation.
that's the thing I like about season one is just that it does a lot of world building, and as the season progresses, the world only gets bigger from there, and it just keeps building and building up until the end of the show in season three. And it's not like
I don't.
it's boring lore. Like
hmm
it's interesting, and there are certain aspects of the lore that makes you want to learn more about it. Like the past avatars, and then there's oh, what is it? Um, like the spirit world with like I think there's that panda spirit. I think his name is Havai, and then there's
hmm
like the face stealer or whatever. That that spirit creeped me out so much as a kid. Still does. Like I remember, I think I had a nightmare about that when I watched it as a kid.
But I mean, I don't think. Well, with the world building, it's not like Tolkien, where in like if you read Lord of the Rings, it's like he feels the need to explain literally everything. He's like, oh, well, the grass is green because the gods will. It's like, okay, well, I don't really need to know why the grass is green. Like the world building is like specifically placed just to build up the parts that you really need to know. I think that's why it works really well.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the like main. I don't think the episodes themselves are slow paced, because like you can watch an episode and like have a good time,
Mhm.
but like like the overarching story may not be as developed as quickly, but the episodes themselves are pretty fastly paced.
Mhm. They're a lot of fun too. Like there's the episode where they go and visit Kyoshi Island, and like the main goal for them being there on the island is so that Aang can like wrestle a giant sea serpent that lives there, or something.
Hmm.
There's a lot
Eli
of
says
episodes.
that the game audio is a bit loud,
Okay, I'll turn it down.
and like there is a lot to explore in the world, you
Mhm.
know.
Isn't there an episode where like Aang goes penguin sledding or something with Katara?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's like the first episode.
Is it?
Yeah, because because he's like, oh, do you want to go, like, whenever he wakes up, he's like, oh, do you want to go penguin sledding?
Mhm.
But I don't know, it's weird because the filler like, it doesn't feel like filler, even though in my head I know it is.
Mhm.
But it's kind of interesting because because like it is kind of based like off like anime, like it has that style,
Yeah.
but because like if you watch like certain animes, like the entire show is basically filler, and so like you really just don't want to watch it, even if it is a cool concept or a cool world. You just like, I completely lose interest because the filler is not compelling, but in Avatar it works really well.
Yeah, it does. And I don't know. It's like it is filler, but it's also not filler because what I notice is that most of the episodes in season one is it's not just the group traveling to the North Pole or whatever, but you know, like on their journey to the North Pole, they're meeting these different groups of people. Like they meet with Haru, the Earthbender, and then there's those people at the Northern Air Temple with like where they completely mechanical like transform the the temple into like a mechanical factory or something.
Yeah, because they're like making weapons for the Fire Nation or
Hmm.
whatever.
And then uh was Bato of the Water Tribe, where like he's part of Katara and Sokka's father's group of warriors, and that's
Hmm.
cool. And then there's like uh that one brute and his little friend Pipsqueak or whatever. I don't know their names. And then there's like Jet and his little gang. There's all these characters, and they come back later on in the show, and so they just take all the episodes to introduce you to these characters and to to set them up for later on in the show.
Hmm.
So I
So,
wouldn't necessarily call it filler because they're important later on, but then again, I mean, you could argue that it is filler too.
who's your favorite character in the show so far?
So far, like in season one.
Yeah, season one. Like, who's your favorite character?
Okay. Probably Uncle Iroh.
Why?
He's, I don't know. He makes me laugh a lot. Just the old man, and he's like, you have Zuko, who's like trying to regain his honor, and he's super moody all the time. And then you just have Iroh living his tea, and you're just enjoying life. It's a great contrast and makes for some really comedic moments.
I like Uncle Iroh just because he is goofy, but like then he'll say something like really profound, but then
Mm-hmm.
he'll just go back to playing his like weird chess game.
Yeah, I like Uncle
So,
Iroh. And like,
like I think.
go
Okay, no,
ahead.
go ahead.
Well, it's like his backstory is really well fleshed out too, because like he's a war general, like a one of the greats in the Fire Nation. But then like when you look at him now, he's just the goofy old man who plays chess and drinks tea. So he's an interesting character, and I like watching him on the screen.
I think I think overall Zuko is my favorite just because he does have like one of the best arcs in the show because like we were talking earlier and it was like and I said that he was like the Kylo Ren that we wanted but we never got.
Yeah,
But I mean it's I think I think for season 1 Aang is actually my favorite. I don't know why. I just really like watching him because he is just this like he's just a nice kid and he just wants to have fun, but you can also tell that he feels like really pressured because he has the weight of trying of being the Avatar and having to learn all the different types of bending and then to defeat the Fire Nation. I don't know. I just think I think he's just really fun to watch.
yeah, and there's that one episode, the storm, I believe it is, where like uh there's like a fisherman and Sokka goes out with a fisherman to I don't know, he was trying to prove something, I think. And then uh Aang and Katara get in an argument with like the old fisherman that Sokka's going with, and uh, the fisherman says something to like no, Katara's defending Aang and is saying that he's one of like the bravest people that she knows, and he would do anything to help those in need. And then the old man says something about like, well, where was he 100 years ago when the Fire Nation came and everything? And so that makes like Aang flies off and goes and hides out in a cave during a storm, and uh, then we like learn his backstory and everything and how he ran away from his responsibilities of being the Avatar because he wanted to live out life as a kid. He didn't want that kind of pressure on him, and so that's when he froze himself. And then the rest is history. The Fire Nation came and attacked. He wasn't there to stop them, and the world changed as they knew it. And so it's really cool to watch his character because he's still that kid, but there's still that kind of pressure that he doesn't want to make the same mistake and leave people, the people in need, while the Fire Nation is there. And so he's trying his best to stop it, but he still wants to be a kid at the same time. And so I don't know. It's cool.
I also really like him because it's not like he ever becomes really angsty about it.
Mm-mm.
Like he may have like oh well I can't handle the pressure and he'll leave, but then he'll come back and he's just totally willing to help and trying to make the best out of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because like that's one of the things that like I hate about like Order of the Phoenix is just that Harry Potter he just gets so angsty in that book. Like he has he has perfectly good reasons to be because like like he watched Cedric Diggory die, like Voldemort is back, like Dumbledore was ignoring him. Like he has reason to be, but I mean it's just so frustrating to read.
Yeah.
But with Aang, he's still the bright-eyed kid who still wants like what's like he wants what's best for everyone. he wants to give everyone a chance. Like there's the episode where like he saves Zuko from an attack or whatever,
Is
and
that
he like
no? Yeah, keep talking. Sorry.
yeah, cause like Zuko breaks him out of prison.
That's the Blue Spirit episode, right?
I don't think so because it's whenever Katara and Sokka are sick and they need like the medicine, but then Aang gets captured when he's looking for it or something, and then Zuko frees him
Yeah,
because he wants the credit.
that's the Blue
Is
Spirit
that the episode?
episode. hmm
Okay.
That's
And
a
then
really good
later,
episode.
like yeah, and Zuko is like as like passed out from like the fight. He's like, oh well, I used to have a friend from the Fire Nation, and he think if we met each other 100 years ago, we'd be friends. But then like Zuko tries to get up and he just leaves. But like he wants Zuko to be friends with them. Like he wants to see the good in everyone, and I think
Yeah.
it's a nice breath of fresh air, you know.
hmm What do you think about Sokka?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's weird because we talked about how like rewatching with fresh eyes because in my head like I know these characters as the fully developed versions of themselves, like the redeemed version of Zuko and like Katara becoming more mature. And I totally forgot how like the arc of Sokka being really sexist and not thinking like taking girls seriously and like it's kind of annoying like because I think in the first season Zuko and him are really annoying because they just haven't gone through that development yet.
Yeah.
Because like with Zuko, he won't shut up about the Avatar or regaining honor, and like it's kind of become a meme. Like if you look at Avatar memes, it is like oh like my honor, and he won't shut up about it. And like Sokka is the same way, but just being sexist.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it was like annoying to watch because like the first time through like I was like oh well that's just his character, you know, like I didn't really think too much about it, like it didn't annoy me or anything, but this time it was like oh my gosh, it's like it took a while for me to get used to, you know.
hmm Yeah.
And I think it's supposed to be like that, you know. I like Sokka though.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I walk out of a cave, and there's like this stairway. This ice wolf just leaps over all the stairs at me, and then it misses me, hits the ground, and just dies.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
my gosh, that was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in this game. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
uh, yeah, but Sokka is a little annoying with all those sexist remarks and everything. What I like about him though is like there are moments where he can be really funny though, and the the thing about like the relationship of the group is like Katara and Aang are so much more optimistic than Sokka is, and so like he'll try and warn them not to do something, but they'll be like, "Oh no, it's a good idea. We should do it," and he'll like be like, "No, I don't think that really is a good idea," because he's thinking about all the ways that it could go wrong when they're thinking about all the ways that it could go right, and so
Mm.
that's an interesting dynamic with the group, and also provides for some good laughable moments. You know, like
It's also interesting because Aang and Katara are benders,
mhm.
and then like Sokka just has like his brain, or he just has himself. Like he kind of like, cause like he kind of represents. I don't think he's not the POV character, but he kind of like represents like what like a normal person would be like in these situations.
Right.
Because like kind of like how you said, like the other two are so optimistic. Like I feel most of the time like normal people are thinking about the things that could go wrong if they do something rather than the things that could go right whenever they make a decision.
Mhm.
And I think that because if he was also optimistic, I don't think the dynamic of the group wouldn't work,
Mhm.
you know. But I think I think without him, the show would be not. It wouldn't be as good as with him there, you know.
For sure.
But like I think my favorite story in season one is the Jet story.
Yeah, that's a very good episode. It's got some deep themes too. Like
Hmm.
because in that episode, it's like Jet and his crew, they're introduced and they seem like really cool guys wanting to do good and stuff. But then like later in the episode, you learn that like they're wanting to destroy a village, right? A
Hmm.
Fire Nation village. But the thing about the village is that
They're
it's
innocent.
yeah, they're just it's just a normal town. There's no military there or whatever. But they want to destroy the village anyways just because they're Fire Nation. And so it's like, well, is it the right thing to do to take out the village and prevent, you know, future Fire Nation soldiers from becoming that? Or, these are innocent people. Should we just let them live? And that's a pretty deep thing for a show for kids to explore. And
Like it adds morality to the show because like before that it's all like, oh well, we're gonna go to the North Pole, yeah, like but like it's still like a fun show,
hmm
and like there's not really a whole lot of depth to it, but like the minute the Jet Li episode happens, it's like, okay, wow, there are like actual stakes here.
yeah,
Like people will die in this war, you know.
and that's something that is explored throughout the rest of the show is deeper themes that don't normally are shown in shows like that, which I think is really cool.
And like just his character in general, because like he's like seems like he's like very cool, he's collected, he's intelligent, but then like he manipulates people,
hmm
and it's kind of a common thing in Avatar is that the group meets like a person or a group of people, and they don't know that these people are actually bad people and they want to use or hurt people,
Yeah.
and I think it's like after a while you kind of pick up on it, but then again like sometimes it will like just take you by surprise, and like I think it works really well in the show.
Oh yeah. Um. Let's see.
I mean, I have some more notes about Aang because like because I really like Aang,
hmm
and I think it's like kind of the same reason why I like Captain America is just like because he is removed, like he is completely alone, like he's 100 years removed from everyone, like he doesn't know anyone and the world has changed, like, and he feels bad because he did abandon everyone, like kind of like how you were talking earlier,
Yeah.
like he left the people, not because it wasn't because of like it was a selfish reason too, but I mean then you also think he's just a kid, he's just a normal 12-year-old kid, and he didn't want the pressure, and I think that's really interesting because like even though he tried to run away from it, like it's still gonna happen, like he's still gonna have to own up to it and still be the Avatar,
Yeah.
and I just think that's really interesting. And it's weird because I've heard like a lot of people like just like because like the popular choice for like the best character is like usually like Zuko,
Mhm.
or like Uncle Iroh or Toph or like Katara, because like it's kind of like Aang is kind of like Harry Potter, where like all the other people in the story, like you'd rather see what they're doing, you know?
Yeah.
Because like because no one really says, "Oh, Harry Potter is my favorite character," you know? And it's kind of the same way with Aang and Avatar, and I just think that's really weird because I think he is like we don't they don't play it up because it is a kids show, and that would kind of ruin the tone if they just went all in like, oh yeah, he feels so guilty about being a survivor, like he feels bad. Like they don't play it up. Like they hit it at the moments uh that it needs to be talked about, like when they go to the air temple
Yeah.
and they see like the skeletons, or like they go to the northern air temple and it's completely different because they've industrialized it,
Yeah.
and like those are the perfect times to bring up like that he is the last airbender and that he does feel bad, you know.
Mhm.
I think.
That's a lot of weight to carry, especially for such a young kid, and
Hmm.
you got to give him credit for being able to handle it in such a great way too, because while he does still have those moments, there's they're pretty rare where he feels that kind of guilt uh, and that kind of heavy weight on him. Well, at least that he shows.
Hmm.
So.
And he's still compassionate. He's still optimistic. Like I was
Mhm.
kind of like how I said earlier. Like he still wants to see the best in people. Like he still, like at the end of the day, like he still believes that there is good in the world, and it's such a nice breath of fresh air because like Luke Skywalker has been ruined now, because
Mhm.
like he's not the same hero he was in the original trilogy because of the sequels, and it's kind of like he like he em- Aang embodies like all of the right characteristics for a protagonist to have,
Mhm.
and I think he's just so interesting, and I kind of feel like people kind of forget about him, you know, even though he is the main character.
Yeah.
But
What do you think about the music in the show?
uh the I always kind of like, besides the main theme, I always kind of like forget about like the music, but it is good. I think I wouldn't put it on a playlist or anything like I would for Lord of the Rings or Star Wars,
Mhm.
but I do like it. I think it's appropriate because it is a like a Eastern inspired show, you know, and it has the right like style of music. I don't know. It works for the show. If it was anything else, I don't think it would work.
I like it a lot. I think
Hmm.
I've tried to find it like on Spotify to put it on a playlist before, but I couldn't find it or something. I don't know what happened, but I
Yeah,
really like the music in it.
I don't think Nickelodeon ever released a soundtrack for it. Like
Mhm.
I heard that they never did for some reason. I don't know.
Which is weird
I
cuz like
like
it's
the.
it's such a different kind of sound that like Nickelodeon, all their shows, like it's very different from what Nickelodeon would normally put out, on
Mhm.
their channels. So
Like the show itself is very different from anything they would ever put out.
yeah.
I mean, like you have SpongeBob, you have Rugrats, you have these comedy shows that don't really have a central plot. It's just like, oh, we're gonna make Krabby Patties. Oh, so somebody stole the formula. And they're like goofy fun, but Avatar has a very set in stone story. Like one of like it works because it is so carefully structured for 3 seasons and no more and no less.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have easily just kept going and kept making seasons even though they never really needed it. But no, they were like, okay, well, this is the story. We're not going to do anything else with it. We've built up the world and we've built up these characters and this is how the story ends and there's no more. And I think that's why I really like it,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no weird season where they kind of have to like reboot things to make it to be able to make new stories.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not like it's okay. So in Community, like at season 5, where Abed explains how they're gonna have to like have a soft reboot for the show.
Right.
It's they never needed that. They have their story, and they completed it, and then they were done.
They told the story that they wanted to tell, and so
Hmm.
there's no need to continue. They knew when to stop, which is something that shows these days don't know when to stop.
Yeah,
So,
it's I think it's always been kind of like that for TV, because like even back uh with like the Flintstones, they just kept making them
mm-hmm.
until people just stopped watching them. Or even something more recently, kind of like Adventure Time. They just kept churning out episodes, and they kept churning out seasons until people like the show died on the air, and they stopped airing it because of like shows like Teen Titans Go that were more popular. So the show just died, but they just kept making them, even though like the fan reaction wasn't very good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of, or something like Stranger Things, like they just keep going, even though they could have just stopped at season 1, and it would have been known as one of the best shows of all time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think Stranger Things is definitely something we could talk about on the show.
Yeah.
But
Is it is season 4 supposed to come out like this year, or was it like delayed? Do
I
you know?
think it's delayed.
Okay.
I I think it's going to be, especially with the virus, I think it's going to be delayed till next year.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard a whole lot about the show.
Well,
Like I don't know like when it's taking place or anything.
yeah, we can always talk about it when the next season goes through.
Hmm. But
Um, let's see, what else is there to talk about with Avatar, season 1?
season 1, um, what what is your favorite culture to learn about in the show?
Um, definitely the air nomads, just because like they're all gone in
Hmm.
in the show, and so it's definitely interesting learning about the way that they lived and stuff, because there's a whole bunch of different flashbacks that that Aang has, where uh, it shows a glimpse of what life was like in the air temples and stuff, and so
Hmm.
you get to see, oh, what's his name? It was like Aang's mentor.
Oh, I like Aang's mentor just because like because he was the only one that advocating for Aang to have like his semi-normal life,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But like honestly, I think the air nomads are the most interesting. I only think it's because there's only Aang, and there's like we don't have anyone else to bounce off of.
Yeah.
So just like absorbing as much information as we can, because we just don't know that much about it. I think that's why I like the air nomads the most.
Yeah.
I think the Earth Kingdom is boring of the kingdoms, or the most boring of the different groups. Because like with the water tribe, it's kind of interesting because there's
There's
two
two different,
sister
yeah.
tribes. Whereas like with the Fire Nation, there's just the Fire Nation, and the Earth Kingdom, there's just the Earth Kingdom. But it's just kind of interesting that the Water Tribe has two different groups,
Yeah.
and they're both a little bit different.
Um, yeah. Speaking of the Earth Kingdom, it just reminded me of the movie, like the live action movie of Avatar the Last Airbender. Have you watched that yet?
I have not.
Oh my goodness. It is
I don't want
so
to.
bad. It is horrible. I would talk about it, but you haven't seen it, so.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming it's a lot like the show.
It
Well, not not a lot, but like the same story beats.
yeah, for the most part. It skips over so much, and what it does hit just doesn't have the same kind of weight that it did in the show. And then
Hmm.
there's all of these mispronounced names and stuff. Like the character names too are just mispronounced all the time, which I don't understand why they mispronounced it, because they literally have the show to go off of and figure out how to pronounce things. But for some reason, like Aang is pronounced Ung, and then
Oh my gosh,
Sokka
that's so
is Soka, and then I think
dumb. Ahsoka Tano?
yeah, it's like it's Plo Koon's nickname for Ahsoka,
That's
Soka.
that's so weird.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe Zuko's name is mispronounced too, but there's like all these different. It's weird, and like the way that they bend is completely different. Like there has to be like a substance for them to use. Like that's
Hmm.
the way it was with like the waterbenders. They had to have water with them, but the firebenders they could just produce fire out of nowhere, right?
Hmm.
But in the movie, they carry around these big like uh pots you be able to firebend with, and
Oh my
and so
gosh.
and it's so weird because like they do all these fancy moves and stuff, and then there's like a oh, what's it called?
Delay.
Yeah, a delay on the bending. And so they do the moves, then they wait a second, and then the fire starts to move and stuff. And that's and it's slow too. The fire moves so slow. It's not fast paced like in the show. It's very, very slow. And the earthbenders are the same way too. Like they do all these really cool looking martial arts moves, and then you just see these rocks come onto screen and they're moving at a snail's pace towards the firebenders, and the firebenders still get hit by the slow moving rocks. It's ridiculous. it,
That
it's
sounds
it
so dumb.
it unimmerses you from the world, and it's just so disappointing because waterbending was actually pretty cool, and it seemed to flow
Hmm.
smoothly and everything, and so did air. But like fire was just and earth for some reason were just so bad.
That sounds terrible.
Hmm.
I don't know. Like some of me is like, okay, like I should watch it. I'm an Avatar fan, but then some of me's like, no, maybe I should watch it. Maybe I shouldn't have the story tainted by such a bad movie.
Yeah, you shouldn't watch it unless we're having a groovy movie night and making fun of it.
Hmm. But I mean, I don't have anything else. I don't have any other notes.
I don't think I have anything else either. So do you want to go ahead and end this right here?
Sure.
All right. So
Yeah, I don't think anyone's watching, so.
what do you want to talk about next time? Is there anything in specific or
Uh, I don't know. I think we could talk about it.
Okay.
later, but as of right now, I don't know.
Okay.
So.
Well, until next time.